Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 17th meeting of the Bethany City Council. I'll call the meeting to order. Would you please stand for the invocation by Councilmember Knapp and remain standing for the flag salute, please.
Lord, we'd like to thank you for what you give us every day. Please continue to keep us free from harm. Watch over our families and our friends. A special watch over all of the city employees, all of the citizens of the city of Bethany. Please guide us as we make decisions this evening and into the future. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please turn and face the flag. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. The first item on tonight's agenda is the consent docket. We have items A through E. Do any of those items need to be pulled or addressed separately? If not, I will take a motion on the consent docket as a whole.
I'll make a motion to approve, please.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Please post your votes. Item 2 is called to the public. If any member of the audience wishes to address the council, please step forward to the podium. First state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
I'll start. My name is Lenny Caprero. I live at 4811 North College in Bethany, of course. And I thought that the sewer line meeting and this meeting would be together, but they weren't. But this is something good. I just want to tell you, as a firefighter for many years, I appreciate you guys, mayor and councilwomen, on the purchase of that fire equipment that you've given the city. It is Class A. It is the best that you can buy. I want you to know that I stopped there, talked to the chief, and they're really excited about it. And I think that you need to go and present these to the citizens in some fashion. I don't want to say celebration, but some kind of an open house or together with the 4th of July. In New Jersey, where I come from, 40 years ago, I've lived here now, but we would have a humongous parade and celebration when there was new equipment purchased like that. It's called a wet down. Fire departments would come from all over the state and just flood it with water, called a wet down. But it was quite a celebration. For what went on there, you're not going to have it happen in Bethany, that's for sure, with the partying that went on. But I think that something needs to be done to make the city aware of what you guys have done. But I do commend you on what you've done for the city, because that was well needed. That equipment that they had before that, they've used it to the max. And this now is going to last a long time. And the Graham company is a great company. It was Miracle of France years ago, and he won. And it's just a real commendable thing you guys did. And that was the good part, together with the sewer line that's going to go behind my house. Excuse me. So I just wanted you to know that, so I just stayed so you guys would know. But I really would like to see something done with the city so the city understands, number one, where their money goes and what that means to the city as far as protection of their life and property. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think the fire chief is well into the plan of having an open house, and they want to get done with the fire station first, because they're redoing the fire station also. So they want to have a complete open house and share all of it with the citizens. So they're going to do it. They want to brag.
Good. Brag on it.
Brag on it, exactly.
Anyone else care to address the council? Hearing or seeing none, I'll move on to item 3, consideration and adoption of resolution number 1409 relating to designating the adopting boundaries of the proposed tax increment district and project area, providing for public hearings with respect hereto, and declaring an emergency. Steve?
On this particular situation, I am going to have to defer to David and his expertise in reference to the TIF.
Sure. We've discussed this to some length before, but generally what a tax increment financing or a TIF district is a method under state law, under the Local Development Act, by which the increase in ad valorem taxes related to new development may be used for the installation of infrastructure for the development of property that for one reason or another is difficult or to develop or is economically unfeasible to develop. And in this particular instance, you're looking at the property that is generally located where Pauline's Bait Shop was, near Lake Overholser. Been called several things over the years, Waterside, I don't remember all the other names, but there is a proposal to develop that property. The property changed hands this year, and there is a new owner, a local developer, who hasn't expressed an interest in developing the property, but has told you that he needs financial assistance in order to do the infrastructure necessary to develop the property. That's generally how a TIF functions. The purpose of the resolutions you have tonight are two. The first resolution has to do with establishing the territorial boundary of the TIF district, which is generally the same as the property that's described as Pauline's Bait Shop that we just talked about. Second resolution is a requirement of state law that requires certain things to happen before you can create a TIF district and obtain financing through that mechanism. The first thing that has to happen is that there has to be a review committee formed. That review committee consists of one member of this body, the City Council, who's the chairperson of the committee. There's a member of the Planning Commission on that committee, and there's a representative of every taxing district that would be affected by the tax increment financing, and that would be Putnam City Schools, Oklahoma County, the County Health Department, Metropolitan Library System, and Francis Tuttle VOTAG. Those are the taxing entities that would be involved. And then once that committee is formed, then the chairman then submits 7 more names to that committee, and they pick 3 more themselves. The committee then begins to have meetings. The developer would submit a project plan, and over time that committee would review the project plan. And after public hearings before the City Council, the plan would be voted on by the City Council. The committee's recommendation is somewhat like a recommendation of the Planning Commission. It's not binding on the council, but if you override their recommendation, it takes a 2/3 vote of the City Council to approve the development plan, project plan. Ultimately, once the tax increment financing district is created, assuming it is, then the developer would then commence his project. There would be a development agreement entered into between the Bethany Development Authority and the developer, whereby the amount of reimbursement would be established and the purpose for which the monies would be spent would be in that development agreement. The developer would then put in these public improvements, dedicate them to the city, just like any other water, sewer, street, or any other public improvement would be. And then bonds could be issued then based on the increase in the tax revenues that come from the increased valuation of the property after development. Just to give you an example, let's say right now the taxes on that property, let's say just for sake of example, let's say they're $1,000 a year, which probably isn't too far off. But after development, let's say they're $50,000 a year. You can see that there's a $49,000 increase in the tax revenues that would come from that property. That money would then either go to the developer or it would be used to issue bonds to repay the development costs that the developer had expended, but again, only for infrastructure. And that in a nutshell is how this works. The city council ultimately holds the ultimate decision-making on whether to proceed with the tax increment financing district. I would say by commencing tonight, you are in effect giving your approval to creating the district, because from once you approve these documents tonight, people are going to be moving forward and expending a lot of time and effort on this project. And it certainly wouldn't be fair to anybody involved to not be serious about going forward with it at this point. Paul Johanning is here, who is a bond lawyer. I think you all remember Mr. Johanning, and he worked with me 10 or 12 years ago on this same property on a potential TIF, but I don't need to remind any of you what happened to that. It didn't materialize. And in the Bethany Development Authority meeting, which is later, there is an agreement to hire Mr. Johanning and myself to handle the legal matters regarding this TIF. I'll answer any questions you have. Mr. Johanning's here if you have any questions of him.
That doesn't fall on the builder, the legalities the legal bills wouldn't fall on the builder.
It comes out of the tax revenues, out of the money generated from the project.
So we're understanding that the city actually does not disperse any funds, that
There-
it comes from the developer, and the developer will receive reimbursement from the ad valorem tax.
That's right.
So we are just kind of acting as a board, I guess, council, to just allow it to happen.
You are approving the project and are acting in somewhat of a supervisory authority over the project. But there won't be any city funds expended. And
Well, if there are bonds purchased, does the city, that has to go through the city?
No,
doesn't it?
Guarantor,
no, the Bethany Development Authority will issue the bonds.
as a guarantor.
No,
It's not?
no, the Bethany Development Authority will be the issuer of the bonds.
So if
City of
project-
Bethany is not the guarantor, no.
So if the project fails, the bonds, something goes south on the project after that.
Well, I suppose technically that's possible, but, when you have bonds secured by the tax increment, a failure is unlikely. I suppose that if the buildings burned down and they weren't insured, or, something where the assessment change drastically, that's the only real way it could default, I would think. Because remember, the project's already built, the developer's already spent the money. So what you're doing is you're reimbursing the developer. So, the developer, if the bonds defaulted, the bondholders would probably come in and, I'm not sure what would happen at that point in this. Paul can probably answer that better than I can.
When do they start when do they start paying back to the developer? After buildings are on or after the public utilities are in?
No, after the improvements are there, because you don't have the increment until the buildings are there. In other words, everything is based on the increase in value, so there's no increase in value until the
So until the buildings are built,
Let's say there's a hotel.
tenants are, yeah, that's when they start getting repaid back?
That's when, once that happens, then, once the buildings are built, then the county assessor then reassesses the property. And that then creates the increment that we're talking about. That's where that's done.
That's why there's very little room for failure, because the project is completed at that point.
That's right.
Businesses are located
That's
there.
right. But even if the bonds did default, the city of Bethany is not obligated to pay the money.
Just making sure I heard that right. Not after the utilities are in, but after the buildings are in.
That's right. That's when the reassessment occurs.
Okay.
So you're saying that the developer will pay the cost of the public improvements to be made before they're made? I mean, after they're made?
He writes a
And
check for
He
it.
will not receive any funds on I would call these GO bonds. Is this about correct?
No, they're not GO bonds. They'll be tax increment bonds issued by the Bethany Development Authority.
But the payback is through the county assessor.
That's right.
Or treasurer.
The money, the increase in the taxes due to the increased value of the buildings on the property is the money that goes to guarantee the payment of the bonds.
So the city is not on any type of obligation to pay these bonds back for any reason whatsoever.
No. Only the Development Authority is the issuer.
The development,
BDA.
let's see, there's 8, 9 of us up here. We're the Bethany Development Authority.
And the Bethany Development Authority has very limited assets. I'm not sure
Very
what that
limited
number
assets.
is. Maybe, what does the Development Authority have, John? $150,000?
$199,000.
But obviously, since the developer has to put that skin in the game, get everything done, I mean, they have a lot riding on that project, so wanting to see that completed well, completed on time, so that that assessment can be made, so that that difference can be set aside, would be, I'm sure, pretty paramount.
So whenever he finishes the job, the county assessor assesses it, the first year's collection on the ad valorem tax is made. The builder will start getting his money back, or will he get his money back when they sell the bonds?
When they sell the bonds.
When they sell the bonds.
I have a question relating to the structure of the committee and the purpose. I understand how it's set up. What is this committee's relationship to planning and zoning, other than the fact that one member from PNC is on it? And is this committee just for this TIF district? I don't see any term limits, so is it for all TIF districts that might ever
Well-
happen? Or are there term limits? How is it structured
The
that way?
the first resolution that you're passing establishes the boundary of the TIF
Right.
district. So unless that boundary is amended in the future, or a new TIF district is created, and it could be done either way, this TIF district would end when the project's complete, the bonds are issued, okay? It would be possible to amend this to include a larger area
No,
and
my
retain
question-
the same committee, but they would still have to meet.
My question is about the review committee, since that's a separate resolution. The review committee doesn't say that it's tied just to this one project. So if someone came forward, this project is completed, someone comes forward with another TIF district that is not at all related to this one, does the same committee have authority over the
Okay.
next district?
Recognizing the city only has 2 people on this committee. Everybody else is appointed by someone else.
Right.
Okay? You don't have any discretion over who those people are. So the only people you control are the planning commission member and the chairman.
And the people that are appointed by the council person?
Those,
No.
Who are
No.
these 7 people that you mentioned being,
just citizens?
okay, how are they appointed?
By the.
No, the chairman picks seven names, and the review committee picks 3 of that 7 themselves. You don't pick them.
Well, the review committee is the Oklahoma Library System. Is
That's
that
right.
correct?
All those people I mentioned.
PC Schools, Oklahoma County, and Bethany Schools.
And the chairman, which is a council member,
Well, how come?
Bethany's not in that district.
it's Putnam City.
Bethany's not impacted.
Bethany's only north of
That,
39.
that property pays no tax to Bethany Public Schools. It only would pay to Putnam City, the VOTEC,
Okay.
the county, City County Health Department. That
Okay.
would be the
City
entity.
County Health Department.
So it'd be one member from this body, one member from P and Z, and then those entities we just mentioned, then the chairman of that group would nominate 7 other people. Only 3 of those will be chosen by the group.
To answer,
And that's the complete board.
to answer your question, if a new TIF district were created, the same resolutions would be required for that district. So the council would again be looking at the same thing. And remember tonight, you're not picking these people. All you're doing is just setting up the makeup of the committee. That'll come back to you later for the 2 members that want the city council member and the planning commission member, and then the representatives from the various taxing districts.
I just don't see anything in this resolution that ties the review committee to this specific TIF district. And that's my question. It looks as if this committee exists for all eternity, and whatever comes up, these same people, or at least the same representatives, will be the ones that will be serving on the committee.
The
And-
city council always picks the chairman
I call it TIF commission.
and the planning commission member.
So every time there's a new project,
Every
would
time a new
choose a
TIF
new
district's
chairman?
created, yes.
then I think there needs to be something in here that ties this resolution to this TIF district. So when the TIF district is completed, then this resolution and this committee goes away.
See, we really haven't created a TIF district yet.
Well, then let's do that and then talk about this.
No, you have to do
But
this
you can't,
first.
you have to do this, the
Because
state,
it's
state
the
law
next
says you have to do
thing.
it in this order.
Right. So if you, I'll make a motion for the first thing, and then we can talk about the second. I'm just concerned that there needs to be something in the appointment of the review committee that ties it to this specific
I guess I'm not
project.
sure I understand your concern. This body is always going to be able to pick the chairman and the member of the planning commission. And the rest of it's out of your hands, really.
No, I understand that, but if I
She
was,
just wants it to go away when this TIF is done.
if I was
And then on the
chosen the
next TIF,
chairman,
a new one started.
and then 5 years from, no, 4 years, whenever my term runs out, someone else does another TIF district, am I still the chair of that committee? Or
You're
is there
saying, you're
another
saying
committee?
just, actually, you could say that the chairperson rotates every year, if that's what you want to do.
Well, it may not be necessary.
I mean, I'm not sure what it is we're trying to accomplish.
There's just not much specificity in this. It says a proposed tax increment district. Doesn't say the proposed or the only proposed or the waterside TIF.
Well, the review committee doesn't even talk about a tax increment district.
Paul, you have any ideas on that? I mean, I don't know how you would set a term limit because you don't know when it's going to finish.
No, if this committee was just responsible for this particular project, then when the project is completed, then it would expire. But there's nothing in this paperwork that I see that ties it to this specific project. It looks like it has to do with all economic development and investment that we might be involved in, whether it's a TIF district or not. It seems too broad.
Would you like an answer to your
I
your
would.
question?
Yes.
Please.
This committee is just for the district that you're considering authorizing right now. That district can only last for 25 years after completion of the project. So if he completes the project next year, the district lasts a maximum of 25 years. The committee will last for the life of the district. And it does that because you may, in 15 years, make an amendment to your district. In order to accomplish whatever it is, you'll need the approval of the committee. So the committee may not want to last 25 years, but it will. Now, if you come up with a different district year after next, then you create another committee.
Okay.
It may be the same people, but it's another committee. Even if it's the same people, they don't deal with this district and the other district in the same time. They take them one at a time, just like you all do.
That answers my question, and I'm happy about that answer.
Thank you.
I just want language then in this resolution that ties it to this,
Is that the law?
to
Is
this
that the
TIF
law?
district.
That's the law.
Okay.
The problem with what we're responding to here is maybe the most complicated Oklahoma statute I've ever read, and I've sure read a lot of them. And this is just triggering the operation of those statutes. Those statutes came as a result of a constitutional amendment to the Oklahoma Constitution several years ago. So they're pretty much cast in stone. They haven't been played with very much. And my guess is they never will be.
So in all reality, what we're doing is just pointing to state law and saying we're recognizing Title 62, whatever the
Yes.
subsection is,
Yes.
and playing by those rules.
And a good
Bethany does
example
not
is-
have the authority to affect the taxing ability of Oklahoma County except by virtue of this state law. You can't tell Oklahoma County they can't have their taxes. I mean, that's not within the power of Bethany. So you have to follow the state law or you can't do it. Paul, what about if we just say we appointed a review committee for TIF District Number 1?
That's fine.
How about adding that?
Yeah, because that's actually what they are.
And obviously, that committee, once they've made their review and recommendation to the council and that district is set up or denied, whatever happens, it would basically be a dormant committee until such change was needed, or
Yes.
somebody decided something needed to be done differently.
Yeah, they
It's not
would
like they
have-
would meet any time between now and, or between the final meeting of making a recommendation and if there was a change in that tenure.
It's not uncommon for the project plan to be amended several times during the course of one of these, depending on, how the project lays out, what the demand is, and if there's an amendment to the plan, it's going to have to go back to the review committee.
I have a couple of questions, and I'll take, since we're talking about the committee first, and then I have one specifically about the TIF district. Is it customary for a member of the developer's firm to be on that committee? Or
It's-
is it outside of the scope of that?
It's not customary either way I can think of. I can't imagine why you do that,
Okay. I
because
just
they're
want to
kind of
clarify.
adversarial potentially.
Right.
They're passing him what he can do or not do.
I
So
just
it's,
wanted to clear it.
yeah, you wouldn't normally do that.
Okay, and then my other question, I don't know specifically who should answer this, but in the map of the area that we're declaring, there is who then? But this area right here, hasn't it been designated as something else? Is it in a floodplain or something?
Is that the creek that you're pointing at?
It backs up to that house.
Well, let me tell you what the map includes. It includes the developable portion of that land. It includes the creek, if you want to call it that, or the canal, or whatever you want to call it. And it includes a small portion of land that's currently owned by a religious organization that abuts the property, yes,
So it does include this,
yes.
to this line, this rectangular lineage.
Actually, the legal is what controls, and let me look at that just a minute.
Well, next to the church there, there is a big area that sometimes floods, that is next to the creek, and that's what I'm thinking, that this is. I was just trying to.
Well, that may be part of,
This line goes over further than that creek is shown. There's a little bridge there, and so. I need to get my glasses redone. They're not even a year old
okay,
for a bigger map.
that property that is marked not included, that is the property that's owned by the church.
This is not included.
Uh,
But this is where the creek, this little creek is?
It's actually on
There's a
both
bridge
sides,
right
correct?
here.
It's this area here.
Yeah,
Includes this, but not that.
It,
but it's included, that not included is not our language, that's just a map. This is a survey map that we used. That not included is, all that's showing is it's not part of that plat. That is part of the TIF district.
The rectangular is or is not?
Yes,
Is or is not
is.
part of the TIF?
it
Yes.
comes down to the point. I believe what's beyond that point is the church's property.
But it's in the TIF district.
That's right.
Do they not have to have some say over that?
No,
The development authority can just go in there and declare their property a TIF?
yes.
I wouldn't take kindly to that.
But if the developer doesn't own it, he can't do anything with it.
Well, that's true.
Kathy,
Okay.
And that's.
It's
there-
just
there would be-
included within the district area.
Okay.
There would be no taxes off that property anyway, it's a church. I mean, so there would be no increment difference there.
The
even
whole,
if you
the whole
developed it.
purpose is that the developer has indicated that will, his plan is that will eventually become part of the project. And if you don't include it in the description of the TIF district, it's not part of it.
Okay.
We'd have to go back and have an amendment, is that what you're saying?
No, that's why we included it now.
That's what I say, if you didn't include it
Yeah.
now, you'd have to go out.
That's right.
Uh,
And it actually goes, it includes the right-of-way of State Highway 66 there as well, in case there are some road improvements to be made as well, so.
That
Okay.
piece of property we're speaking of was purchased and given to that church several years ago
By the same person we bought it from.
from the same person we bought it from, right?
That's correct.
Look, can I ask you a question? David, the way, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, but what I remember, and I ended up, after the Bakers passed away at Outdoor America, they gave me a check, one of the checks that J.D. Johnson used to give away to try to get business in Bethany. I don't know if anybody remembers those. They were $1 million checks and tax incentives, and they were about 3 feet wide and about 12 inches tall. And it came along with a letter to get businesses to come, and in that letter, it said that the land was given away to the church to make them happy, and the green belt was put in to make the citizens happy between that developing area and the houses right there. It also said in there that the city had spent several $100,000 and brought utilities to that piece of property, and there was dirt, gravel, and concrete in it, and it was ready to build. Now we're being told that wasn't true. And I don't know who knows what's in that property.
Well, the utilities are to the property, but there are no inner utilities, no water, sewer, or streets.
But the big
Within
job's
the
already been
property.
completed.
I think the city spent $400,000 or so bringing water, sewer to the property, right?
But that's a big chunk when you're looking at development. To already have it there, brought to you is huge.
But it was also put into service other areas in that area down there that could possibly be developed. So, you know, that's not so bothersome to me as making sure that we get the right people on this review committee from this council. And this council backs those people totally.
That's just one now.
We get two people,
Yeah, this planning commission and a council member.
yes. And we should, what bothers me is that this council should back them totally. And I think they should, instead of just a majority, I think they should be at least a 2/3 majority of the council approve their appointment. So that they have absolutely the backing of this council, other than just a mere slim majority.
I have a question. I would ask you, is the committee makeup mandated by state law?
Absolutely, in detail.
That's,
No city would ever create a committee like this.
Amen.
Something strange happened on 23rd Street.
Well, I can criticize my fellow lawyers out there. I don't know what they're thinking.
Once again, if I could, I'm trying to figure out what the improvements are gonna be. We've already put the green belt in, we've given away land to satisfy the church, we've done all the setbacks, we brought the utilities there, we raised the land up. According to my information, it's compacted with dirt, gravel, and concrete. I'm trying to figure out what the economic problem is, rather than getting something, the citizens to pay for something.
Well, it's probably the fact that it costs $20 a foot to put a sewer line in.
It's already there.
And it costs over $150 a foot to put a street in.
We already did it. I mean, we brought the
No,
utilities to the
this is
property,
interior of
$400,000.
This property that they would want to go in and do.
Those are normal expenses, those are not super out of the ordinary expenses. Now, if that property was low, if it was the same property across McFarland's property is below floodplain, that would be one, where you've got to bring it up 4 or 5 feet.
The previous people wanted to put in a sewer, or wanted to put in wanted to put on the shopping center there, had a very detailed plan of what they were going to do. And they decided that they couldn't afford to do it themselves and bring all those in. And this will be, all of these streets, I understand, will be donated back to the city of Bethany, and the water system and the sewer system will be donated back to the city of Bethany.
Private property streets will be donated?
It won't be private.
It won't be private.
One thing I might mention, none of that will be known until we see the project.
You're right about that.
I mean, I suppose it's possible that he could work on a project plan and say he doesn't need the TIF district, so that's the end of it. But right now, you're not approving doing anything. That'll come later. And that's what the review committee looks at.
And we won't know what the developer is intending until we allow this to happen, correct? That's when they bring us the
Not until
license.
down the road.
Yeah.
And he may not know. He may not have gotten really serious about looking at this until he knows it's gonna happen.
Right.
And part of this, it can be used for 39th Expressway to improve the turn laneage into there also.
Right. And that probably will be an issue.
Yeah.
That's a little bit complicated. I don't like to make things seem more complicated than they are, but there's some question about where the north city limits is on this property. It may be that street that floods, that serves the north side of this property, the little access road, that may actually be in Oklahoma City.
And how will that affect the TIF district?
We're probably gonna have to resolve that some way, I would think, because that's obviously gonna have to be improved in order to develop this property. I'm not sure about that, but I've got my maestro looking at that issue. That's Mr. Caton, by the way.
His ears perked up.
Absolutely.
I move that we authorize the mayor to sign this resolution 1409, designating and adopting the boundaries of a proposed tax increment district and project area number 1.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Is there any further question or discussion? Please post your votes. Okay, item 4 is consideration and adoption of resolution number 1410 relating to economic development within the city of Bethany, Oklahoma, providing for the appointment of a review committee, providing for the membership and powers and duties of said committee, and declaring an emergency. Obviously, we've kind of discussed this with the other. Do we have a motion on that item?
The only thing I might add to this will come back to you. You're not appointing these members tonight. That'll come back to you later.
Yes, I would make a motion on that, but reserve change the majority to a 2/3 majority of the city council for the election of our chairman and the person who is from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I have some concern about that because state law says how you appoint them, and it doesn't require a supermajority. I'm concerned you might be putting a defect in the whole TIF district to begin with to do that. Now, if you want to have some policy here among yourselves like that, that's up to you, but to include it in these documents, I don't feel comfortable with that. Because it just says they'll be appointed by the governing body. It doesn't require a supermajority vote.
The final TIF plans do call for a supermajority, though.
Only if it's against the recommendation of the review committee. Takes a 2/3 majority. If you follow the recommendation of the review committee, it only takes a majority. But 2/3 override the decision of the review committee.
Section 6, is that what you're quoting to me or at the present time?
Yes.
It says approved, proposed district and a proposed plan or project, city council, et cetera, will have a 2/3 vote of the majority for approval?
Only if it's contrary to the,
It says if such approval is not in accord with the recommendations and/or conditions set forth by the committee, then it will require a 2/3 majority.
I will make a motion if we're ready.
Yes.
I move that we authorize the mayor to sign Resolution 1410, providing for the appointment of a review committee for TIF District Number 1.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. All right, item 5 is receive bids for the purchase of $8.18 million general obligation bonds, Series 2016 of the city, and vote to award said bonds to the lowest bidder, complying with the notice of sale and instruction to bidders. David, I guess I'll let you take this one again.
I think John Wolf has this item.
All right.
I don't have anything to say other than that's a really good rate, I think, and
We did,
the bidders I don't think they think rates are going up because they bid 2.75% in 2036, so.
that's true.
20 years. We do.
Yes, we did have great interest in the bond sale today from 4 different underwriters. Citigroup being the low bidder. I have information I can pass out. You do have a long agenda, so I can provide as much information, but I'm going to hit a couple key points. Lowest interest rate bid today was an average rate of 2.09%. This is a 20-year term. But that's basically the average interest rate of all of the maturities that you see in front of you. The information that was provided to council a couple months back addressed rates that might be in the 3 to 3.5% range, so we were well below that. The difference between you in dollars between a 3.5% on a 20-year term and a 2.09 is almost $1.1 million in interest savings. The low bidder also bid a premium of $116,000 approximately that will go to the city at closing, will go into the sinking fund. And what that translates into is the numbers that were shown to you based on estimates 2 months ago showed an average mill levy, I think, of about 6.7 mills over the term of 20 years. The new average mill levy will drop to about 6 mills. More importantly, the first mill levy we were projecting was going to be a little bit over 8 mills. Based on the premium that you're going to get at closing, depositing that into the sinking fund, the lower interest rate, the mill levy will be closer to 5.4 mills instead of 8 mills. What does that translate into? A $100,000 home that was looking at $6.50 to $6.75 a month, that will drop by $2 a month. But as far as a 20-year term, 2.09, exceptional rate. I did want to address, we had the bonds rated by Standard & Poor's. Had a conference call, John. I can't remember what day we had the conference call here in the last 10 days. It was, last Thursday we received your rating. You received a AA minus from S&P on your bonds. Very few communities have a AA as far as municipalities in Oklahoma. I do have copies of the rating report if you guys would like to have copies, but it was very positive as far as the city of Bethany with everything going on in Oklahoma's economy over the last year. I believe that's exceptional for the city of Bethany, and you should all pat yourself on the back and pat financial management and management on the back as far as keeping your fund balance where it needs to be, keeping your economy stable. We have booming economies, we have declining economies. Bethany has always stayed at a good even keel that is very relaxing to hear from rating agencies. They feel comfortable. So I wanted to address that the rates you received today, like I said, the low interest rate of 2.09, is reflective directly of receiving the AA minus rating. So be glad to answer any questions. I think 2 months ago I provided out a big spreadsheet that no one probably wants to revisit tonight. I'll be glad to revisit it. But I've got a before and after, what you saw 60 days ago, how everything came through today. So it does show that we were very fortunate and to be in this interest rate market. And our recommendation to you is that you award to Citigroup. The cover bid, or the second lowest bid, was from Robert W. Baird, not too far behind at a 2.26. But as I talk interest rates, and those at home watching, their eyes rolling back in their head, what does that mean to us? You just saved potentially an ordinary market over the last year. 3.5 was a good interest rate to project, and you saved the community saved $1 million in interest by selling the bonds at the right time. And we'd be glad to answer any questions that council has.
If I could get up and yell right now, I would. I am so excited.
Well, it's
I can't hardly sit still.
so.
And I don't know who to thank.
I think everyone's.
No, I do know who to thank, but thank you for your work on it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, council members? Thank you, John.
You bet.
Appreciate your work. All right, so, council members, do we have a motion on item 5?
I move that we accept the bid of Citigroup at 2.09%. I mean, what detail do you need here?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Thank you.
Is this the report you were talking about
That's the rating report.
regarding the rating?
I don't have glasses. There's actually two different reports. I think I have another report.
Okay, I'd like to see that. I have that. Yeah, I have that.
This is what I brought. See if this is.
Item 6 is consider and vote on ordinance number 1915, providing for the issuance of general obligation bonds in the sum of $8,180,000 by the city of Bethany, Oklahoma, authorized at an election called and held for such purpose, prescribing form of bonds, designating bonds as general obligation bonds, Series 2016, providing for the registration thereof, establishing the city's reasonable expectation with respect to issuance of tax-exempt obligations in calendar year 2016, and designating bonds as qualified tax-exempt obligations, providing the form of a continuing disclosure certificate, providing for the levy of an annual tax for the payment of principal of and interest on the same, and fixing other details of the issue and declaring an emergency. Item 6A is consideration and possible approval of ordinance number 1915 on reading by title only. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Please post your votes for reading by title only. Thank you. Ready when you are, David.
Actually, you just read the entire title,
right.
Mayor, so
there you go.
I would repeat silently what the mayor just said.
All right, so section 6B is consideration and possible approval of sections 1 through 10 of ordinance number 1915.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Thank you. Item 6C is consideration and possible approval of section 11 of ordinance number 1915, the emergency section.
So moved.
Do Okay, do we have a second? Second. Any questions or discussion? Please post your votes for the emergency section. Thank you. Item 7, consideration and possible approval of a lump sum withdrawal of OMRF retirement funds for former employee Jose L. Martinez. Steve?
Can I say one thing first?
Absolutely.
John Robinson, the amount of work and effort he put into the last item, the meeting that we had on the telephone, the effort that he had put into, he had already sent the answers to Standard & Poor's, basically what they expected to be a 45-minute to an hour-long meeting lasted about 15 minutes, and they continued to congratulate him on the good job of this paperwork, and it was just an excellent effort, and I think he certainly needs a pat on the back for everything he did, so thank you very much.
Not a round of applause.
Thank you very much. So, anyway, good job. Next item, this is for a withdrawal of funds from OMRF. It's something that we do occasionally, not very often. This subject wishes to withdraw all of his funds from the plan. He has been warned repeatedly about the hardship this can cause him later in life, but he still wishes to do it. He's been advised of the tax consequences, and he still wishes to do it. So I would request that you allow him to withdraw his funds.
Okay, do we have a motion for approval of the lump sum withdrawal?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Thank you. Item 8 is consideration and possible approval of a renewal of the FY 2017 radio system license agreement with Oklahoma City. Steve?
This is our annual renewal of the Oklahoma City license agreement. This is actually a very good deal for us. This is the same license agreement we have renewed for several years now. The price is the same. The only change in this one is they're actually giving us more days to pay the bill. They basically, a grant buys the radios, we take it to the radio shop, they install the radios. If we have problems, they work on the radios. Then they allow us to use the service, which is the 800 service, which allows us to contact anyone in the metro area. It's just a very good deal. So I would suggest that we allow the mayor to sign the contract.
Motion to approve.
Motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
I've got one question. The city of Oklahoma City has agreed to the 45-day.
Yes, they requested it. I truthfully believe what it is they had problems with other municipalities that couldn't, the turnaround originally was sometimes very short.
Yeah.
And
Between council meetings, probably having
Right.
approval and getting
Sometimes
it
they
paid
couldn't
on
get
time was
approved in time.
problematic.
right.
But that's not something we just pitched in there and hope it's going.
No,
Open it
the
stick.
request came from them.
You mailed it yesterday, but I wanted to pay the day before.
Right. The request came from them.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Please post your votes. Item 9, consideration and possible approval of a renewal of the hazardous waste intergovernment memorandum with the city of Oklahoma City and authorize the mayor to sign the document on behalf of the city of Bethany. Steve, once again.
I apologize, I told you the wrong thing. That radio was not the increased days, that was actually this one, it was the hazardous materials. They are requesting more time. We actually get billed monthly for this. The radio contract is just an annual contract. This is actually monthly. This allows people to take this down to their site and turn in chemicals, paint. This is a fantastic program. This keeps people from pouring it down the sink. It keeps people from pouring it in the backyard. I just recently got a list, and it is amazing the number of people in Bethany that actually use this service. This is a fantastic service. This keeps it from going into our water supply. So I would request that you give the mayor the authority to renew our contract. Same price as last year.
Do we have such a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Thank you. Item 10, consideration and possible approval to authorize the city manager to purchase a 2014 Dodge Charger police package unit for $18,000. Steve?
This is a bit of an unusual circumstance. This is where a car dealership that does purchases cars for a very large Oklahoma State police organization thought they were going to need a large number of police cars, or trooper cars, if you will, and all of a sudden that organization ran out of money and decided they didn't need as many of these trooper cars. And so the dealership offered them to other municipalities at a greatly discounted price, and we wish to take advantage of it. This is although it is a 2014, it is a brand-new car with a brand-new warranty, no miles or very limited miles on the car. It is not a used car. And it's actually a savings of $47.99 over the state contract price. This is just an attempt by one of our departments to save money for the city, and I wanted y'all to see that. So I would request that you give me the ability to purchase this car.
And I asked if it was a replacement vehicle rather than an additional one, and it is a
Yes,
replacement.
it is a
So-
replacement. We are putting down a car that was purchased in 2004, I believe.
So I will move that we authorize the city manager to purchase a 2014 Dodge Charger police package police unit for $18,000, which is a good deal.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Which, by the way, I believe the chief said that money is actually coming out of a
Yes,
drug
that's-
seizure fund.
That's
so,
drug fund money, so it's not actually.
Criminals are buying us another
Yes.
patrol car, so
Yes.
always a good thing.
Do we have any others that need to be replaced? Didn't we used
Now
to
might be
have a
the time,
Charger?
huh?
Didn't we used to
I
have?
think
We
we
still
still
do.
do. Yeah.
We still do?
And it may be, it's probably a little older than 2014, I don't
No,
know.
it's a Crown Vic we're putting down.
Item 11 is consideration of possible action to retain the services of Whites and Luxembourg as legal counsel concerning claims against responsible parties for pollution of the Bethany public water supply, and authorizing the mayor to execute the necessary agreement for such services with a proposed executive session if necessary.
I might mention, you heard the presentation previously from Whites in Luxembourg. They submitted a proposed contract. What you see before you is the contract with my revisions included. They agreed to almost all of the recommendations I had. I also had emailed you a red line version in case you wanted to
Compare 'em.
peruse over what the changes were, but I'm satisfied with the agreement, and I'll answer any questions. If you want to discuss any of the merits of the litigation, I'd suggest we go into executive session.
Do we need an executive session?
I don't have any reason for one, unless you do.
I say motion to approve unless there's someone that wants an executive
So,
session.
motion for approval of the agreement, the services agreement?
Yes.
Okay, and
I second it, or maybe someone else did.
I think Ms. Larson actually
I
had
did,
seconded
yeah,
it
that's
first.
fine.
Any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Thank you. All right, item 12 is the city attorney's report, David.
Only had one item. Last Friday, I received back the governor's approval by proclamation of our amended charter, so it's now in effect. And just to refresh your memory, it did two things. Number one, it placed in the charter the requirement that a supermajority vote of the council is needed where there's sufficient protest on a rezoning. And secondly, it altered the election dates and the filing periods to comply with the state law, which seems to about every other year change the permitted election dates. But we also this time built a little protection in and says if the state changes it so that we can't conduct an election on the date specified in our charter, then you can establish an election date. So we shouldn't have to amend the charter every time the state legislature decides to amend the election schedule. That's all I had.
All right, David, and thank you for your work on those items and getting that language to the public. Item 13 is the city manager's report. Steve?
I'm sorry, I went off the air thinking we were going to have to go back there. Number one, the burning at Eldon Line Park is over now, so if you're smelling smoke, it's not from us. We still have a pile there, but it's simply because we just can't get enough trailers, dumpsters to get it hauled out of there. We're doing it as fast as we can, so we're working on it. They are also working on getting the grass replaced. I spoke when this is basically for the council. I spoke with Gary Holland at SGR. He requested that all of you get your ratings turned in to me, and so that I can get that information to him. He also requested that you have the information, read the information you were provided, and the mayor will talk to you shortly about that. And that's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you. I guess, JR, you have a financial report?
I'm sorry.
That's all right. You're done. He's not. That's okay.
There you go. There you go.
Well, we're running a little long tonight, so I will try to be brief. Our fiscal year-to-date revenues have been $6,745,000 compared to, I hate to say this number, $6,666,000 for last year. On a budgetary comparison basis, our total revenues have exceeded our budget by $56,371, or 0.83%. So we're still right on tap on our revenues. Year-to-date expenditures been $7,609,000. We budgeted $8,689,000, so we're still running under budget on expenses by 12.4%. Net operating transfers have increased the general fund to $3,388,000, which is right about where we try to keep it for bond rating purposes, as you saw tonight. The Bethany Public Works Authority, their total revenues have been $6,565,000. That amount is less than our approved budget by just $67,000, or about 1% for the year. Their operating expenses were $4,693,000. Year-to-date operating transfers have decreased the fund balance by $1,121,000 down to $22,065,000. Capital Improvement Fund, the revenues and transfers through April were $453,734. The expenditures for the month of April were $823,340. The donations to the Blue Goose Restoration Fund are still at $3,950, and we still have a fund balance there of $1,643,000. That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions for JR? Thanks. Appreciate it. Item 14 is council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Councilmember Harris, I'll start with you tonight.
Yes. Want to invite everyone to the Bethany 66 Festival, which will be in downtown Bethany on Saturday, May 28th. It's from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. These posters will be appearing around town. It begins with a 5K and a 1 mile run for all ages, and that's sponsored by the the Run Enduro group, but online it's www.runonroute66.com, because they will be running on the route with police protection. There is a Children's Princess and Action Hero Parade at 11 o'clock that begins at the Bethany Law Center, so that's a wonderful opportunity to get dressed up and walk through town in the parade. There's live entertainment all day long, car show, trucks, bikes. There are food trucks. There's an entertainment stage, arts, crafts, retail vendors, and a quilt show. So there's a lot going on. And I think we can find a place for a couple of new fire trucks, don't you, Randy?
Oh, absolutely.
So we will find a place for a couple of new fire trucks to be on display, and anything else the city wants to show off. So, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
And it's all free.
Even better. Councilmember Holloway?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to thank staff for all their hard work on the general obligation bond, and also just in general, I'm excited for the city of Bethany. There's a lot of good things happening, and we just live in a great city.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore?
I've got nothing.
All right. Councilmember Lundstrom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight does represent a tremendous amount of work from staff and those who we've trusted through the years to help us with our financials and our direction on different things. And I do appreciate the fact that you guys can do your job so effectively and with such class and dignity year after year, and come back with great recommendations. And the city of Bethany really has no idea of what you guys bring to the table and your skills and your work. And I appreciate what you guys do to help us out. And tonight, like I said, does represent many great things that are getting ready to explode here in the city of Bethany, explode in a good way. And I appreciate all the work that you guys have done to help us out. This is our last meeting before the May 28th Bethany 66 Festival. Always a good time to bring the family out and spend time in our downtown area. It's a fantastic event that will last almost all day. And the way I look at it, it's kind of a kickoff to our festival season. This is a time that we gear up here in Bethany to start inviting our neighbors to allow us to showcase what we have here in Bethany, and invite all of our friends and from other areas of town to come in and visit with us and spend some time and shop in our shops and eat in our restaurants and have fun in our town. So that's a fantastic way to kick off what I call festival season. So I guess that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Larson?
I too want to thank staff over the bonds and the hours that have been put in, and to Public Works over the limbs. Do I understand that what's left there on the limbs now, it can't be burned?
Right, that's just dirt and stuff that's fallen off the limbs. It's ash. It's
So we will pay to
we're-
haul
yeah,
it away?
We're paying to haul that away.
Okay.
But that's minimal
Well,
compared to.
and the grass is
everything.
coming up. All this rain we're having and sunshine between. We're gonna have some nice grass out there come 4th of July. I just know it. I also have a question about the court report. Don't we sometimes get a yearly comparison rather than just the months? I'm looking at you because you're finance, but I know it's not your report. But is that not, do we not sometimes have? Am I asking a question?
I think historically it had a year-to-date column, and I don't have it here in front of me, does it not this time?
It's just monthly. It's all
That is different than what it used to be.
So I like to see a comparison for a year or two as to where we're moving forward. And so if that could be on the next report, I would appreciate it. I think we all like to see what's going on.
We will, we'll see what we can come up with. A reminder, we changed computer systems,
Oh, yeah.
and we may have to manually put something together that shows that. But we can certainly do that.
Okay.
So.
All right. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Herron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just some thoughts. As the school year comes to a close, I'd like to thank all the educators and staff for their dedication, hard work in teaching our children at the Bethany schools and Putnam City school years. I think they've all had very, very good school years this year. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Shirey?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Since the last council meeting, something in my ward happened. Dr. Louis Santelli passed away, and he was a member of boards in this town for some years. He did a lot of services for it, and I want to thank him belated and his family belated for his service. When do you expect to have the plans for the library back?
We haven't finalized the contract with the architect yet.
Okay.
The library, Metropolitan Library, is reviewing the proposed contract at this time. I've reviewed it as well.
The contract to the architects to start drawing the plans.
That's correct.
Okay.
I did get a report today that they hope to have the soil sample report by mid-June, is what I was told.
The what?
The soil sample report. They are working on that.
Yeah, we're waiting on comments from the Metropolitan Library on the architect's contract.
Okay. There are a large number of trees, tree limbs, so to speak, and trunks of trees laying on a right-of-way in the 6400 block of Northwest 36th Street. And 36th Street is one of our entry streets. And if we could possibly find out why they're not removed and get them removed, I would appreciate it very much.
Code enforcement says it's already been looked into. We will find out what the deal is.
Okay,
I'll get
good.
with you
It's
on
been there for quite some time. I certainly do appreciate it. It's unsightly on a gateway. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Knapp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to reiterate what a couple of other people said just about just all of the extra and outstanding work by city staff for today and just your daily work. You know, it's just, you always do good work. Memorial Day is coming up. Just everybody, if you get that extra day off, those of you who do, just be careful out there. There'll be extra traffic. And also, as has already been mentioned, schools are just about out. They'll be out this week and next week, so watch for kids out riding their bikes and everything else, maybe a little more than every other day. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to specifically thank our finance director, John Robinson, and our former city manager, John Schugert, for keeping this city so financially secure. It's because of their work that we're able to get that great bond rating and keep our city moving forward. So I want to thank you, the Johns, for their work in keeping us financially secure. I also want to thank our Public Works Director, Steve Caton, and all of his crews for the amazing effort that they gave on the storm cleanup. I know a lot of that was some long days and long hours, and a lot of people probably doing work that they weren't typically used to doing. So, but thanks for those to those crews for just sacrificing for the city and getting it cleaned up. As Councilmember Shirey mentioned, longtime Bethany resident Dr. Louis Santelli passed away, and I want to give my thoughts and prayers to his family. Dr. Santelli, as Councilmember Shirey mentioned, had served for a number of years on boards here in the city and always involved, him and his wife Joyce. And it's good to have people involved, but our thoughts and prayers are with their family. Also, thoughts and prayers with our police officer that was involved in a shooting this morning. I talked to the chief this afternoon, and we've been extremely lucky in this town. I would say per capita with officers, we really are on the very low end of officer-involved shootings, especially for our metro here. And we're fortunate for that. And luckily today, our officer wasn't injured. So thank the Lord that that happened in the manner that it did. But our thoughts and prayers with him as he, I'm sure, had quite the frightening go around this morning with that suspect. I also want to thank our fire department for allowing me to spend some time over there a few different nights last week. I got to go check out the new trucks. I had seen the new engine when it came in, but hadn't had a chance to get up and check out the new ladder. And if you look on Facebook, you'll see me at the very top of that 77-foot ladder. So it was quite the experience to go climb that. I will say I have an all-new respect for a firefighter putting gear on, because I did not have gear on, and climbing that 77-foot ladder. My legs were absolutely burning by the time I got to the top. But what a view. A 7-story building, basically, right in the middle of Bethany, and you could see all over. So, but thanks to the fire department for being such gracious hosts. And as the gentleman mentioned, they would love to show at the beginning of the meeting, they would love to show those trucks off any time, and those are your trucks. So feel free to stop by the fire department at any given point in time. If those trucks are there, they would absolutely love to show you their capabilities and all the neat tools that are on it. So, but my thanks to them. I got to ride on a couple of different call-outs and kind of observe them in action. And we encourage you, council members, to make some time to go up there on an evening and sit and maybe catch a ride. It definitely is interesting to see those guys in action, and our police department too, riding along with a police officer and seeing what really goes on in town. Definitely enlightening. That's all I have tonight. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany City Council? Oh, I'm sorry. That was the only other thing I had on my list here. Next Tuesday, if we could, about 6:30, get together and we will discuss what we have as far as our numerical values with the applications you have for city manager. If you can turn those in prior to the meeting, that would be ideal. That way those can be tabulated and the meeting shouldn't last that long if that score can be done ahead of time so that we can move forward in a very exciting time in finding a new city manager. And I must say, as I've read through a good portion of those, we definitely have some fantastic applicants. So
If I could get those
next
by
Tuesday.
Friday, that would be really nice.
He will. And staff will send out an agenda and actual meeting posting tomorrow, I believe. Is that correct, Steve? All right. If there's no new business, I'll declare us adjourned until June 7th, 2016. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. I'll now open the Bethany Public Works Authority. We have the consent docket items 1A through C. Do we have a motion for approval on those items?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Any? Moved and seconded, please post your votes. Item 2 is consideration and possible approval of water treatment plant quicklime bid specifications and authorize staff to solicit bids. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Thank you. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Public Works Authority?
That was the meeting before.
Well, I didn't see it in my packet, but I thought I was just missing it.
No, Linda left that on there. She apologizes, and I didn't catch it before.
Okay.
That should not have happened.
Well, we're going to double approve them.
Okay.
Item
We
3
really need that.
is new business. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Public Works Authority? Hearing or seeing none, if there's no objection, we will adjourn until June 7th, 2016. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned. I'll now open the Bethany Hospital Trust. We have the consent docket items 1A through C. Do we have a motion for approval on those items? Do we have a second?
Second.
Please post your votes. Thank you. Item 2 is new business. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Hospital Trust? Hearing none, if there's no objection, I'll declare us adjourned until June 7th, 2016. And hearing no objection, we are adjourned. I'll now open the Bethany Development Authority. We have the consent docket items 1A through D. Do we have a motion for approval on those items? Do we have a second?
Second.
Please post your votes. Thank you. Item 2 is consideration and possible approval of an amendment to the grant agreement with Bethany Sears LLC and authorize the chairman to sign the document on behalf of the Bethany Development Authority. Was that also left?
No, this is something we need to go over.
Okay.
This is in reference to a problem from the original contract that was signed with Sears, a problem with the gathering of the sales tax information. What this is the amendment that corrects that problem, allows the city to get that information directly from the sales tax information, to get the sales tax information from the state tax department.
All right, do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Item 3 is consideration and possible adoption of resolution number 1411, providing for employment of attorneys to provide legal service for the proposed economic development project for the city of Bethany, Oklahoma. That'd be TIF District 1.
And this also is a contingency fee agreement. In other words, if this project doesn't materialize, there's no payment to the attorneys. It's similar to the contract you entered into with Whites and Luxembourg. It does provide that Mr. Johanning and myself will provide necessary legal services to make that district legal and accomplish the desired purpose.
All right, do we have a
Right.
motion for,
I'm sorry.
oh, do we have a motion for adoption of resolution number 1411? Do we have a second? Was there questions or discussion?
I just am confused, David. I don't understand. If it falls, if the onus falls on the developer, why are we needing to contract with the city for the services?
The city's not doing it. It's the Bethany Development Authority, which will be the entity that issues the financing for the project. The city's not entering into an agreement with any attorneys. It's just the
sorry.
Bethany Development Authority.
But why wouldn't the BDA, why does the BDA need to be on the hook for the legal fees and not the developer?
Well, the money comes from the tax proceeds to pay the legal fees, and two things. Number one, that's the customary way it's done. And number two, I don't think the developer was asked to hire an attorney. I would think that from the city's standpoint, I think the Bethany Development Authority would be better off having its own lawyer, because its interests are not necessarily going to be the same as the developer. The developer very well may have his own lawyer.
Well, we know he does because we received a letter from him.
Well, we want to make sure the TIF district, though, is set up the way we want it set up, with our legal staff reviewing that. And this allows us to do that and recoup those monies that are spent in legal, or not recoup, but just be paid out of that versus the Development Authority having to hire Mr. Davis and Mr. Yohanning on its own and then pay that out of its own pocket. So this allows us to not have to pay for it and allows the TIF district to pay for it.
Which this goes back into talking about costs, and 25 years to recover costs is what are the true costs of a TIF district. I don't think we really know what the costs are, especially when you got a thing called G&A, which is general and administrative. You can carry on as an expense for 25 years and continually get paid for that for literally 25 years. We don't know the cost of this district.
None of the costs will be known until the project plan is brought forth to the review committee.
Which at that time, we have a chance to vote on it again.
That's right.
Once
The
we
review
know the
committee
true
will
cost.
review it several times. You actually have 2 public hearings where notice is published in the newspaper. The public's invited to come in and be heard. All the taxing districts have a right to be heard. And then after 2 public hearings, then it comes to the city council, and you can either approve it as recommended by the committee, or with 2/3 vote, change what the committee recommended and approve something different than that. So that's right.
All right, we do have a motion and a second for item 3 for adoption of resolution number 1411. Please post your votes. Item 4 is new business. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Development Authority? Hearing none, if there's no objection, we will adjourn until June 7th, 2016. And without objection, we are adjourned, and that concludes tonight's business. Thank you.